Good afternoon from a very warm London, wherever you might be in the world. I guess it might be evening or morning, depending on where you are. But welcome to this virtual event. What I'm going to do is just ask everybody in the room to introduce themselves, and then I'll start the session properly. My name is Dr. Michael Short. I've got several hats on here today, but I am the Deputy Head of School at the Bartlett School of Planning. I am the postgraduate tutor, so I have responsibility for all of the postgraduate students in the school, and I also run the two-year Masters M-Plan City Planning. So welcome. I'll say a bit more about my background further into the presentation. Suzanne, can I pass over to you next?
Yeah, of course. Lovely to see everyone. My name is Suzanne. I am the Beams Work-Related Learning Manager over at Careers. What that means is that I essentially bring industry professionals, alumni onto campus to connect with our students at our Bartlett faculty of the Built Environment, Maths and Physical Sciences, and the Engineering Sciences faculties.
Thank you. Stephanie.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Goldberg. I'm here as an alumna of the Bartlett, having done the Masters of City Planning program, and as in the career capacity, I work for the Greater London Authority.
Thank you, Stephanie. And can I also just say thank you to Dana for organising this session. She's expertly managing everything behind the scenes. Thank you. Next slide, please. Great. Okay, so as I say, my name is Dr. Michael Short. We want to do a few things today in the session, so thanks to my colleagues for attending as well. Firstly, I just wanted to talk a little bit about what it's like to study in London, to be in London, to study planning, to think a little bit about what kind of careers our graduates take after they finish their studies. I'll talk to you briefly about each of our 11 master's programs, top master's programs. I'll try not to say too much because there's a lot to get through. And then I'll hand over to Stephanie, who'll talk about her story of arrival in London and success in London. And then hand over to Suzanne to talk about UCL's excellent career service. And then I'll open the floor for questions and answers. If you have questions as you go, please do drop them into the chat, but I'll pick them up after we've all stopped talking. Okay, so next slide, please, Dana. Thank you. When I was thinking about today, I was thinking, why should you come to London? Well, London's the best city in the world. I'm not a Londoner originally, but it's an absolutely fantastic city. It's a global city, as you know, so many of the issues that we deal with as planners are common to other global cities all over the world. But also, I like to think of London as a laboratory. So thinking about, all of us work in practice in the school. We work on live projects. We're involved with our communities. We're involved with planning issues in our neighborhoods and as academics. But saying a bit more about studying at UCL, I think I'd say it offers a combination of academic excellence. I think I just read the QS ratings earlier. We're number 9 in the world. So we've been, I think, in the top 10 for the last 15 years of academic institutions in the world. Obviously, the city's vibrant. It has an amazing student life and diverse opportunities. So we're consistently ranked among the world's top universities with a strong research focus and a wide range of multidisciplinary programs. And I'd really like to kind of underline that. I mean, it's a kind of UCL level introduction, but that idea of multidisciplinarity is something that sticks with us throughout our time at UCL as academics. And obviously, additionally, London provides a rich cultural and academic environment. The libraries, the museums, professional bodies, access to a huge range of industries and careers. And what's really exciting about being an academic in London is seeing our graduates in practice, such as Stephanie today. So UCL is a globally recognized leader in research and teaching. We have a very strong reputation linking those two things together. So this idea of research-led teaching, I'll tell you a bit about my own teaching later, just to give you an example, a flavour of that. It's a member of the Russell Group, which some of you will have heard of, and the League of European Research Universities. And really, I'd say, as an academic at UCL, that really just highlights our commitment to academic rigour and innovation, actually. So hopefully you'll be joining us later this year at a really exciting time. So next year is UCL's 200-year anniversary. So that's next year, 2026. So obviously the university was established in 1826. But what's really interesting, and I think this is a really important point for all of us, is it was founded by people who were inspired by radical ideas. And the person who had those radical ideas was Jeremy Bentham, who might be worth having a look up when you've got some spare time. But that idea of kind of radical ideas, of kind of laboratory to share ideas, to test them, to research them, is very much embedded within the culture of the university. So it was the first university to be established in London, quite unbelievably, but also the first in England to be entirely secular. So this was the first university in the country that allowed people who were not Church of England disciples or members to actually be taught in a university setting. It was also the second university in the UK to admit women in 1878, I think it was. But actually, and I'm telling you that because the very foundation of the university is one which encourages progressive and pioneering ideas. Kind of coming down from the UCL level to the Bartlett School of Planning, we're a key part of the university, and we sit within the wider Bartlett faculty, which is one of the largest and most prestigious built environment faculties in the world. The school itself is one of the oldest. It's the second oldest, actually. The oldest was the former school in Liverpool, and most respected schools of planning in the world. And it's the only remaining independent planning school in the UK. So we have a really, really strong and high profile in the country, but also more broadly internationally. It's also one of the world's leading research-led planning schools where research informs our teaching, and we as staff have an international reputation as a centre of academic excellence in research, teaching, policy and practice work. It's also fair to say that we have a very diverse and international staff body, as well as the students who come from all over the globe, but also we as academics work across the globe, not just in the UK. And actually, if we think about that idea of research-led teaching, many of us draw from that international experience in the classroom. It's fair to say that whilst we're a planning school, we do cover a large amount of territory in terms of what we teach. We have expertise in planning and all that contains, which I'll say more about later: geography, urban design, sustainability, economics, sociology, real estate, politics. That's not an exhaustive list, but gives you a sense of the backgrounds of some of our colleagues. What I wanted to do now is to give you a bit of a sense of kind of what we do as academics and how that kind of links to careers and to your time in London. And something that I always recommend for prospective students before you arrive in September is to have a look and deep dive into the research interests of the staff. So, you know, I'll mention program directors when I talk about the programs shortly. But one of the really interesting things you can do at this point is to look up your program director on the UCL staff pages to see what they're undertaking. What research are they doing? What are they writing about? Who do they collaborate? Sorry, I can't speak. Who do they collaborate with? Where do they undertake their research? You know, where is that situated in the world? What organizations do they work with? And I think it's a really, really useful exercise for you to do, particularly in relation to careers, but kind of more generally, to get a sense of who we are and what we do. So, for example, I'll give you a sense of what I do and where I do it, just as a flavour. So I'm a practitioner, so I worked in a planning practice for 12 years before doing a PhD. But I'm interested in a number of things that kind of stemmed from that. Firstly, I guess I need to say that I still undertake practice-based projects. So I'm very, very heavily involved in practice. I teach and also I research. And I guess there's probably three areas of work that I do. The first is very broadly thinking about how design issues are negotiated through planning processes and also how they're implemented on site. And I have a particular interest in debates about building height and building density within that, which I'll talk about a little bit later as well. Secondly, I'm interested in the conservation and protection of buildings in areas of the recent past. So think about, particularly interested in post-war modernism and its conservation. So in other words, its protection as objects of heritage. And then thirdly, I do a lot of work in equalities and diversity, particularly interested in queer pedagogies and also the experience of LGBTQ plus staff and students in higher education. So you know, even there in those very broad terms gives you a sense of all of the different areas that I'm involved with. In terms of places, I've done lots of work internationally over the years, particularly in Ireland, in Norway, several Middle Eastern countries, and in Canada. And I'm currently work with a colleague at the University of Toronto. So that colleague, Dr. Susanna Bunce, she and I are running a strategic project which ends in September this year, looking at challenges and sustainable transformations in London and Toronto in a post-COVID city. And I say that because you'll also, when you have some time to play on our website, UCL has some very important strategic relationships with key institutions across the globe. One of those relationships is with the University of Toronto, but we have others in China and in other parts of the world too. 2 or 3 more things to say about myself before we move on. And this is, bearing in mind, this is just to give you a flavour of the types of things that we do. As I said, I've got a long-standing interest in pedagogy, so in other words, the theory and practice of teaching. And I published an anthology with my colleague, Dr. Lucy Natarajan, was it last year, called Engaged Urban Pedagogy. I'm giving this a plug because it's freely accessible through UCL Press. So if you just type UCL Press and my name, that will come up and you can download the book for free. Everything through UCL Press is free, so you'll also get a chance to be able to look at the publications of colleagues from the school and indeed beyond. And then 3 more things I wanted to say. And this is to give you a sense of kind of the culture of the school. So obviously we teach, we research, but also we talk to each other about these things. So I chair 2 of the research clusters in the school, one with Dr. Juliana Martins and Eleanor Basusi, which is called Innovation in Planning Education. So that research cluster really is set up to kind of push academic members of staff to innovate in the classroom and to share best practice. And then the other research cluster that I chair with Professor Susan Moore is called Critical Dialogues in Comparative Urbanism. And actually we held an event just Tuesday gone, thinking about the methodological challenges of doing comparative international work. So that's just to give you a kind of flavour of the types of things that I do. And then I'll talk about M-Plan a bit more later, but I think what I wanted to say, coming out of my own research interests, is how will you get exposed to that in the classroom? And Stephanie might say something about this later, but for the M-Plan, which is a 2-year programme, there are 2 studio classes. I run one of those, and we work with Westminster City Council on a particular site. And this is really interesting. So Westminster is right in the centre of London. A lot of the familiar landmarks are in the city of Westminster. But we specifically look in the module at a site called St Mary's Hospital. You can Google it, in Paddington, so kind of a mile or 2 down the road. But what's really interesting about this is a collaborative studio environment with Westminster City Council, where the students work on a live project. And that project is the redevelopment of St Mary's Hospital, which is one of the oldest hospitals in London. So how do you redevelop something that's historic? How do you increase density? What building height should you go to? And those students explore that for Westminster City Council through any way that they want. So it could be policy, it could be urban design, transport, etc. So just to give you a sense of that class. Dana, could we move to the next slide? Thank you. Just a plug here, that's Mari Stocker, who's in 2nd year of M-Plan. So thinking about careers, you can see the statistics there. We have an extremely good careers structure at the school and faculty level, but you can see that our graduates get jobs, and they work in all kinds of different sectors. I'll talk a little bit more in a minute about that. Construction, built environment and property take a lot of our graduates. We send people to policy and government like Stephanie, engineering, accountancy, etc. And the last count was we have graduates working in over 50 countries at present. But I guess kind of standing back from that slightly, I guess what I want to say is urban planning at its heart, why urban planning and what kind of career can you work in, is really essential to the functioning of the places that we live, work and play in. Not only do our cities need to meet community needs and provide access to essential services, but also they need to be inclusive and promote the well-being of inhabitants. That's why people with urban planning skills and knowledge are essential to the workforce to oversee the design, development, and management of our cities to meet the social and economic needs of its people. So I would say that careers in planning encompass a wide range of roles focused on shaping the built and natural environment. And these roles can be found in public and private sectors, with opportunities to work on everything from local development to large-scale infrastructure, for example. I think I'd probably additionally say there's actually a growing area of work for planners in what I call the third sector. So thinking about charities, but I guess in summary, people with planning degrees often work in a very diverse range of roles, as listed on the next slide. Thank you, Dana. Yeah, so I won't read those out, but you can see that not all of those might be typically a planning job. So I'd say that planners are often really in demand for their skills of mediation. And I mean mediation in its broader sense, not just in literally mediating between people, mediating space, people, communities, etc. But I would say as a planner, I'm a trained planner. I'm a full member of the Royal Town Planning Institute and have been since, I'll give my age away, 1996. But I think planning is a really exciting profession, working in fast-paced environments where innovation is driving the sector to look at new forms of sustainable development. Planners get to shape the structure of our communities, influencing the way we live, work, study, and have fun. Very important. It's more than just building houses or offices. So I kind of tend to think, if you were thinking about the public health implications of the built environment, how would that change the way that you plan for the future? The other thing that I find really exciting about planning is you get to see the decisions take shape, literally. Stephanie might say something in relation to this later, but often you can see the impact of your work in the city that you live in. And planners work in partnership with a huge range of individuals, groups, and companies. And I really like that idea of partnership working. So working in collaboration for a higher goal and a higher purpose. So there are a range of different planning-related career pathways incorporating city planning, transport, sustainability, infrastructure planning, etc. And you can see the list of organisations on the next slide. There you go, and that's also an M-Plan student called Halle, who's just submitting her dissertation next week. But it's not a comprehensive list, but gives you a sense of the breadth and type of roles that you may enter after graduation. So what you can see there are local government, private companies. You see small companies, international companies, and certainly, students who graduate often work in this whole different range of organizations. So those connections exist, and we have a very strong relationship with all of those organizations. So I've just noticed that there's a question. I'll pick that up at the end if that's okay, Brandon. But what I wanted to do now is just to take you briefly through each of the programs. Obviously, if there's specific questions about each of the programs, I can answer those in the questions proportion of the session. So there's 11 of them, so you bear with me if it's not the one that you're interested in, but I will get to them. The first thing this is, all of our programs are accredited by either the Royal Town Planning Institute or the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors, and indeed most of them are accredited by both. Many have space for you to specialise through taking electives, and we have a long list of specialisms in the school based on our staff research interests. So, the first programme I'd like to briefly talk about is the Spatial Planning MSc and also the Spatial Planning Degree Apprenticeship. The two are very, very strongly linked. So led by Professor Ben Clifford. Again, I'm mentioning names here, so if you're interested in the kind of work that we all do, please do Google Ben. He's got a very interesting research profile. Anyway, the MSc Spatial Planning equips students with the skills to address complex planning challenges and develop sustainable, resilient communities. With a focus on strategic, integrated and inclusive planning, this degree prepares you for a successful career in any planning role, really, policy development and all of their related fields. By the end of the degree, you'll be equipped to work across the whole range of those jobs, not just in the UK, but beyond. And I'd say this is kind of our most popular core planning programme and can be taken both part or full time. So this is the kind of general planning program where if you wanted to specialize, you can take electives, 2 electives, to develop your specialist interest. The degree apprenticeship is designed to advance your career in planning, and it blends the MSc Spatial Planning, which I just talked about, with supported workplace learning and practical experience. So these are people who work in planning, who need the degree, the apprenticeship, to be able to be fully qualified. So it meets the UK's government's Chartered Town Planning Apprenticeship Standard. So successfully completing the course will award you both the Spatial Planning MSc and Chartered Member of the Royal Town Planning Institute. So it's very, very warm in London today. I'm sorry, I'm sweating. The Sustainable Urbanism MSc is led by Dr. Tse Te, brings together urban sustainability theory, policy, and design to tackle the impact of rapid urbanization on the environment and society. This urban planning master's degree is designed to teach you the multidisciplinary skills and knowledge ready for a career in the built environment, focusing on urban sustainability and sustainable development. I was in a presentation with Wei yesterday where she was talking about the work that she's doing, which might seem very interesting, I hope, to those of you interested in the program, where she's doing comparative work between London and Kampala in Uganda about urban water systems. So very much thinking about how water infrastructure should be sustainably delivered. So this is the course for you, I guess, if you're passionate about sustainable future for all, and led by Hui, who has a very, very strong research interest in that area. The MSc Transport and City Planning is led by Professor Robin Hickman, who many of you will probably know of. He's one of the preeminent scholars in transport research globally. But in this MSc, basically the MSc blends cross-disciplinary insights on transport and urban planning. You'll engage with global debates and innovative strategies addressing the transition to sustainable urban mobility, seeking to understand how transport can support the sustainable city. So engaging with sustainable mobility trends, theories, and case studies internationally, you'll develop a comprehensive skill set preparing for a dynamic career in transport and urban planning. It's also one of the only specialist transport-related planning masters in Western Europe, drawing from the research of people like Rob. And finally, on this slide, the MSc Urban Design and City Planning, which I led 10 years ago for a year, but now is led by Dr. Pablo Sendra, who is an architect by training, but is really interested in this intersection of where urban design and planning meet. And this MSc equips you with a multidisciplinary skill set crucial for careers in urban design, city planning, and related fields. What's interesting, I think, is that you'll learn to use urban design as a creative planning tool, understanding the interplay between urban design and city planning. Combining theoretical knowledge with practical experience, you'll be well prepared for roles across the sector, with opportunities in public authorities, government agencies, design practices, etc. And again, you know, Pablo does lots of international work, particularly in South America and the Spanish-speaking world. Next slide, please, Donna. Bear with me, we've got 2 more slides of these, and then you'll get to hear from Stephanie and Suzanne. The MSc Housing and City Planning is led by my colleague, Dr. Iqbal Hamiduddin. Shelter is one of the most basic human needs, yet few governments have adequately addressed the development of sufficient housing that's in the right type, of the right quality, and the right locations. Often there's a mismatch between the way in which we plan and actually the needs of those communities. So this master's course provides critical perspectives on the role of planning policy and practice in development, financing, and management of housing projects, and strategies to reduce the environmental impact of housing. So really, really key if you're interested in that specialist area. The next master's to be introduced is led by my colleague, Dr. Sonia Freire-Trigo, which is the MSc Urban Regeneration program. It addresses the challenge of urban decline and the planned recovery of our neighborhoods and cities. This urban planning master's provides you with a career leading urban regeneration efforts in neighborhoods, towns, and cities, and you'll gain essential skills and knowledge in the governance, planning, design, and management of urban regeneration projects. Sonia also does a lot of work in the Spanish-speaking world, but also a lot of projects, urban regeneration projects in East Asia, particularly China and South Korea. The International City Planning Masters is led by my colleague, Professor Sonia Abachi, and this Masters provides an international perspective on planning systems and cultures, urban theories, and local practices, emphasizing comparative understanding across different national contexts. This Masters prepares you to take on a career opportunities across planning practice, policy, and consultancy, internationally as well. And with a strong network and practical field experiences, graduates are well equipped to drive sustainable urban development globally. Moving on to the MSc Real Estate and Planning. This is led by my colleague, Dr. Chulin Ke. This program prepares you to build your career in real estate planning and urban policy. This real estate and planning master's degree explores the relationship between real estate markets and the planning system around the world. You'll study the systems through which real estate markets operate and consider market mechanisms from the perspectives of investors, developers, and occupiers of the built environment, and the relationships between markets and policy at various geographical levels. This is actually quite a unique program that tries to draw together those two often different fields in a really, really cohesive and intellectually challenging way. Okay, two more, and then I can hand over. The Infrastructure Planning, Appraisal and Development Masters is led by my colleague, Dr. John Ward, and is a unique program which draws from the school's specialist academics in infrastructure planning. So successful infrastructure projects have the power to deliver important services to populations while tackling global, economic, environmental, social challenges. Infrastructure Planning, Appraisal and Development is designed in collaboration with the leading infrastructure practitioners to equip you with the necessary skills and knowledge to create holistic, robust and sustainable infrastructure projects. And then finally, I get to talk about the program that I lead very briefly. So it's led by me, you know about me already, but this is a unique program in Western Europe in that it's the only 2-year program in city planning which is accredited. Stephanie will be able to say a little bit more about her experience on that program. But in essence, during this degree, we encourage students to think independently and critically about city and regional planning challenges. You'll study planning and comparative perspectives, gaining a comprehensive understanding of how to address planning issues in this country, but also internationally. The 2 years gives you space to develop a broad knowledge and also a specialism through the choice of electives, a longer dissertation. So all of the master's programs have a 10,000 word dissertation. This one has a 15,000 word dissertation where you, in essence, lead your own research project and write it up. But most importantly about this program is the option to take a placement in industry in the second term of the second year. And just to say, I mean, obviously I'm biased because it's my program, but it's a very successful program drawing in some of our most brilliant students. Flattery intended, Stephanie. Before I hand over to you, Stephanie, I wondered, Dana, whether you could drop in the school's LinkedIn page address just for the benefit of the participants. I think it's really, really handy to see the kind of things that publicly that we're doing, the kind of events that we have, which obviously when you're based in London, when you come to us, you're invited to all of those events as students. So I've spoken for far too long. I hope that was interesting to you, but without further ado, Stephanie, thank you.
Thank you, Michael. And I mean, I want to go back and do another master's after that. There's so many great programs. A little bit about myself. I'm originally from Canada, as you might be able to tell from my accent. So that's sort of where our story begins. I did a degree in social sciences at the University of Toronto with a plan to go on to law school afterwards when I was, 18, 19, 20. And then after graduation from my undergrad, I decided that a career in law wasn't for me. And so I looked around and said, what do I do now? I fell into a career in digital media, mostly not-for-profits and third sector organizations. And I added some community organizing and event planning to that. And that's sort of what I did in my 20s. As I was approaching my 30s, I found that I wasn't really inspired by what I was doing. I wasn't really motivated to be staying on top of the latest digital media trends and research. And work was really beginning to feel like work, if that makes any sense to anyone out there. So I decided that it was time for a change. And I looked around, and it took me a little while to figure out what I wanted that change to be. Considered doing an MBA or doing another sort of graduate degree. And while I liked the idea of the education, I couldn't really articulate what I expected to get from it. And until I was speaking with the sister of a friend of mine who is a planner. And so I learned about the field of planning through her. And the more I learned about it, the more excited I got. So I volunteered for a local group in Vancouver called the Vancouver Public Spaces Network. And that's where I met people who worked in the field. I got a taste for what working in the sector was like, and I worked on some public space interventions. And so I started to look into planning as a career path. And I realized that to get a job or to advance in a career in planning, that I would need to get a master's degree. So my next step was then I looked at the top rated planning programs in the world and applied to the ones that were in cities that I actually wanted to live in. And that's what brought me to UCL. So I chose the M plan for a couple of reasons. I liked that it was 2 years. A lot of master's programs in North America are 2 years. That's sort of where my head was at, and it offered a lot more than I thought you could cram into a 1-year program. To me, having the space to be able to explore maybe different interests in the field, do a placement, see what the work potential was going to be like, that was really appealing to me. And so I think if we want to go on to the next slide. Yeah. So within the span of a few months, I moved countries, I changed fields, and went from full-time employment back to full-time education. I had intended to stay in London for 2 years, and I'm on year 8 of that 2-year plan. And that's because I managed a few placements and internships during my time at the M-Plan program. And that's both directly through a placement through the M-Plan program and through connections that I made during my time in the program. And that landed me at the Greater London Authority, so the metropolitan governing body of Greater London, in case you're not familiar. I did a placement there in the planning team towards the end of my second year, and through word of mouth while I was there, I learned that they were recruiting for strategic planning roles. So I applied, and I got it. And so this was the start of my planning career, and this was the start of, the second chapter of my life in London. As a strategic planner, things I did was I evaluated strategically important planning applications across the City of London. I made recommendations to the mayor and the deputy mayors about planning decisions. I responded to queries from the mayor, the deputy mayors, the London Assembly, members of Parliament, and members of the public. Provided expert advice on research and planning applications and spatial development issues. And I developed and maintained relationships with local authorities and planning officers across the city. And then after 2 years in that role, it was an exciting and dynamic role. I learned about an opportunity in the Greater London Authority in the Housing and Land Directorate as an area manager. And so what the area managers do is they manage pots of money and work with registered housing providers and local authorities to try and maximize the quality and quantity of affordable housing that's delivered across London. So there's a pot of money that helps develop accommodation for people with specialized needs and rough sleepers, enabling local authorities to convert market homes into council homes and to overcome housing delivery challenges. And of course, I think we're all aware London, as many places in the world are right now, are experiencing housing crisis with myriad challenges. So that was an interesting role. And I really enjoyed that for 2 years, seeing the quality of housing that actually can be built for social rent and seeing people move into it and meet those people and understand what a life-changing impact the housing that we're building has on them. It was a fantastic opportunity. And after 2 years in that team, I started looking around the GLA again and found my current role, which is a development manager. So I've moved on from the housing team in the grant administration wing, and I've moved into direct development. And so we, as the Greater London Authority, actually have a good amount of land across London, and we're working to develop it. So the schemes that I work on now are major development schemes that are residential led with development partners bringing thousands of homes forward in the next 5, 10, 20 years for Londoners to live in. So is the next slide? Do I have a next slide? Yes, there we go. So in the photos here, the one on the bottom left was visiting a development called Tower Court that we helped fund. And we were seeing, we were getting a tour of the property as people were moving in. And I've toured that property twice. And actually, that was one where both times residents have stopped us and been very effusive about how wonderful it is because of the consultation that went into the design before the design process, and how It was specifically designed to meet the needs of the local community, and it's one of the best places that many of them have ever lived. Then the middle photo there is a development that we're working on right now in Northeast London, where we're working on the first two phases have been built out, and we're working on the future phases. So it's going to have around 4,300 homes, 2 schools, a new rail station, and a bunch of social infrastructure, including a community space, GP surgery, multi-faith center. And that one is being unlocked right now. And then the final one is the delivery of a bridge on another part of the scheme that we're working on in the London Borough of Newham. And that's bringing forward, by the time that's done, that'll be 4,800 new homes with new commercial space and just making a brand new neighborhood. And we're seeing the residents move into phase 1 right now. And I was there last week, and it is so exciting. So I'll stop there. Available for questions, but a little whistle stop tour of my journey into planning and around planning.
Thank you very much indeed, Stephanie. I think it's really inspiring to hear somebody who's made a positive decision to change career and enter the field. Very impressive. Can I pass over to you now, Suzanne?
Of course.
Thank you.
Right. Okay. Next slide, please. So at UCL Careers, who are we and what do we do? Again, following the whistle stop tour, we are a team of experienced careers professionals, just very passionate to help you find your future, wherever that be, whether you're an aspiring kind of urbanist, or maybe you're looking to kind of pivot into the field like Stephanie did, and also kind of meet you where you at in your career thinking, because that could be all over the place and it's often quite messy. So how we do that is through a few things. So events and workshops, one-to-one guidance, as well as online resources. And my part, I'm just going to quickly whiz through what that looks like, a very top level overview. So what I would recommend is that you'll see there are QR codes. If anything that I talk about piques your interest, if you got your phone, whap it out and scan it, and then you'll be able to learn more about what we have on offer. And just so you know, what I'll be covering first is what we offer to students across UCL, so all degrees. And you will have access to all the stuff during your studies and then up to 3 years after you graduate. Next slide, please. So careers fairs is where we basically invite a bunch of employers who are looking to recruit very enthusiastic UCL students for student opportunities like internships, placements, and graduate schemes. Bring them into one room and you get to connect and talk to them and learn more about what they have to offer in terms of careers. We do it by sector, and the fair that might be of interest to you would be the Engineering and Built Environment Fair. Next slide. We also run our Sector Insight events. This is basically a program of activities that is spotlighting different sectors that UCL alumni tend to go into, and the list is here. And that is run throughout the entire academic year and is often run hybrid as well. Next slide. We also run employer-led skill sessions. So again, a program of workshop activities, but it's more about helping you navigate the different stages of the application processes. So like CVs, interviews, as well as mock assessment centers. And as the title suggests, we bring on employers to speak to you directly about what to expect on those different stages. And we also run a series of skills sessions as well. So that's very much so spotlighting the in-demand skills that these employers are looking for in students and graduates. Next slide, please. We got our Careers Essential Talks. So these are our lunchtime webinars, and they're led by our careers consultants. And it's more about kind of tackling the bread and butter of your career thinking. So introduction to the job market, your future, how to work towards it, or even if you're looking to apply for your PhD and how you can fund that. And the list goes on and on. So that is also kind of run across the year, and it's quite a nice way to slot into your what can be a very busy kind of master's studies schedule. Next slide, please. So international student support, we have a working group in careers team entirely dedicated to pulling together a whole program of activities and resources designed for those international students who are either looking to seek employment in the UK or even kind of return to their home country. We also bring our UCL visa and immigration team on to share visa options as well and how you can secure employment in the UK. And I would also recommend looking at the UK CISA. They are the UK Council of International Student Affairs. They're an entirely independent charity based in the UK that's all about supporting the international student community in the UK. Next slide, please. My UCL Careers. That's our platform. It's basically your one-stop shop for you to book onto anything that we run. So events, workshops, one-to-one appointments with our careers consultants, as well as browsing through any current vacancies that are being advertised by student and graduate employers. I would also like to highlight our careers discovery bank. We've got a team of information officers who their entire job is to write up all these helpful resources, help sheets, guides. That's all about anything and everything when it comes to kind of career. And so you'll also have access to that right at your fingertips, which is particularly useful if you aren't able to kind of attend one of our events or come to see one of our careers consultants. It's very useful to have those online resources at bay. Next slide, please. Our newsletter. So I think we're a team of 60 or 70 staff, so we've got a lot going on. And the best way for you to kind of keep up to date with that, especially kind of vacancies, employability news, new events and workshops that we're running, is to subscribe to our newsletter. Next slide. So the Bartlett School of Planning also gets its own departmental careers division that I have the joy of kind of inputting into. So you'll have access to a careers advice Moodle. So that's a great way for you to keep up to departmentally specific careers news, also activities. And then just to give you a flavor of the type of bespoke activities that we've run in the past for Bartlett School of Planning students has been workshops on CVs and interview success, but within kind of like the built environment kind of context, as well as your own departmentally specific careers fairs. So bringing employers kind of within planning to campus to advertise their own vacancies. And there's also careers pathways events with the RTPI and the RICS membership bodies. Next slide, please. Oh, and last but not least, on the faculty level, this is an initiative that I coordinate, the Bartlett Building a Better Future Consultancy Project. What this is a 2-week consultancy project where we assemble students not only from the Bartlett School of Planning, but also from construction, architecture, as well as public policies across the faculty into a multidisciplinary team. We give them a live brief. They go off and work away at it for 2 weeks. They come back and present their findings and recommendations to the project hosts who set the brief. And to some academics who sit on the panel as well. I literally just wrapped this up yesterday and give you an idea of the type of industry challenges that were represented in those briefs. It was around designing for psychological safety, developing a retrofitting tool, and as well as future-proofing some of London's local boroughs. So that's something to look out for as well, should and hopefully you choose to study at the Bartlett School of Planning. And it's a great way to kind of connect with employers and industry professionals, and also kind of get your teeth sunk into something kind of industry related. But I think what really stood out to me yesterday was getting the chance to connect and collaborate with students from other disciplines. That's what I saw the real value out of from the students who presented their presentations yesterday. Next slide. And just final thing for me, ways to keep update, those are all of our social channels. So feel free to scope us out. It gives you more of an actual flavor of what we tend to run from careers. And also there's the website there. I would recommend looking more into if you've got any time to get more information on what we have to provide. But that's everything from me.
Thank you so much, Suzanne. This feels very exciting. That project at the end is really, I think 2026 is going to be an exciting year all around at UCL. Thank you. Okay, so we have a few questions in the Q&A in the box. What I'll do is I'll read the questions out because I'm sure they'll have relevance to everybody. And if my colleagues have anything to add, just wave at me. But we'll endeavour to answer them. Actually, so one other thing, just while I remember, if I'll drop my email address into the chat. So if there's anything you want to follow up with, please just get in touch with me, and if I can't answer it, I'll feed out those questions to the people who can. But in essence, my email is michael.short. Thank you, Dana. Michael.short@ucl.ac.uk.